So it's like as soon as money gets involved in the equation, people's nature change. And a part of it is always just like, well, how much of that was always there to begin with? Like when money gets involved, how much does your partner all of a sudden change the way they behave? Whether you come into money or whether the relationship is falling apart or you're exiting the relationship and then all of a sudden I'm owed this. I want this. This is mine. I paid for this pencil.
Yeah, I'm just like, why can't it just be like, there's a lot. I was like, separate. Let's just come to a fair agreement and let's move on in a week. Like, let's not drag this out. I know, but why can't it just be like that? Why is it gotta get all negative and aggressive and crazy?
I mean, there's the old saying of all is fair in love and war.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking about that this morning. What is the saying with love and war? Or like,
and it usually means that somebody is getting screwed in the equation. It's never an equal transaction. It's very rare. Like anytime I've talked to anybody where they've said that they've had a split of some kind where it's been amicable, I look at them and I go, wow, that must have been amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know what that's like, but gentlemen, welcome. Matthew, good to see you. Loving the shirt again.
Thank you.
This is episode 4 of the Gents Talk series. We're already on number 4. And today's topic is relationships, which is going to be a lot of fun because we're really gonna dive into how those work and don't work for the most part, and what men want, because I know that there's a ton of people out there that just want to know what we want, even though we're not really good at saying it sometimes. We're coming from the Startwell studio in Toronto, rocking the BULOVA watches as always. And then the styling by our friends at Got Style, which is why Matthew looks the way he does.
It's a great shirt.
I like the blue. It's always the little accessory.
You love it. Yeah,
that just makes it.
I love the blazer, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, the mint green is not bad at all. Eh?
I'm digging the shirt. The shirt's my favorite.
Yeah.
She loves putting me in pink.
Yeah,
it's good on you, man.
Well, you went to a pink party
recently.
I did. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
How was that?
Actually. It was really fun. I haven't played poker for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool event, like playing poker with, it's just, poker tournaments are just so much fun, right?
Charity poker? Or just
and for charity, and it's like, you're just rebuying because you're like, it's for charity, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but it was fun. I did manage to advance, but I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. It was getting dangerous. So I gave my chips to a fellow colleague at the table and said, here, you run with it. I actually don't know what happened. I gotta follow up with him.
And see if he won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool guy, too. He was like a guy in the fashion business as well, and like really.
Do you remember that one time? This was years ago. One of your buddies was getting married, and the wedding fell through, and he already put down the deposit on the hall, and so he turned the hall into basically a giant poker tournament.
Yeah.
And that was the day that we crashed the other wedding next door.
Yes, that's right. Was it a poker tournament?
It turned into a poker tournament. Yeah, he's just like whatever. He's trying to recuperate his deposit because he couldn't. Like he already put down and it's gone. He's like, well, why don't I just? He canceled the food, ordered a bunch of pizzas, still had all the liquor because he paid for it, and he just said, listen, gents, we're just going to have a giant poker party in this banquet hall, and whatever I raise, I'm going to use to basically pay off what I've given away for this wedding that's not happening.
Yeah. That was a fun night.
That was a great night because then we ended up, when we came out, I think you were going out for a smoke. I come out and I stand with you, and then next door, this person just like bursts out of the hall because the hall, like it's got doors side by side, and we're like, oh, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're just partying it up, there's a wedding going on here, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, we're kind of celebrating a wedding but not in the same way. And they're like, oh, you should come. And we're like, I looked at Eamon and I'm like, are you down? And he's like, yeah, I'm down. I'm like, all right, let's go. Nice. We started going in and we started shaking hands with everybody, like, congratulations.
Within 20 minutes we're doing shots with the bride and groom. It was crazy.
Nice.
But
Nice.
Oh, well, that was a great experience. I had a lot of fun that night. That was like one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, we should really think about doing a gents post poker tournament.
Wedding?
Poker tournament. An actual poker tournament where you plan to, partner up with a charity of sorts and just do it. It's a fun time. It's a really good time. It was well executed too. Yeah. They did a really good job.
Nice. Yeah. I saw. Yeah, I don't play much poker, but I like to watch. I like to watch people.
We'll teach you.
Yeah,
for charity.
Oh, I'll learn definitely for charity.
Texas Hold'em though.
Yeah. Texas Hold'em, like just the regular. I only know the one way to play it.
I've seen the 5-card draw or whatever it's called. I don't know how to play
any of those. Just like the regular flop and then turn and river.
Nice.
It's all fresh in my memory. It's been a while. I was rusty a little bit to start, but we pulled through.
Awesome. So let's get back to the topic du jour, which is relationships. They can suck or they can be fantastic. They can either make your day or they can break your day, because a lot of it is being vulnerable. A lot of it is trusting blindly sometimes. I mean, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having the right relationship, having the right partner is key. And I think there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention here. Communication. If you don't have proper communication, it's doomed to fail from the beginning, because you can't communicate, you can't talk about anything. If you're ever having a hard time, if you're ever trying to articulate that, you know what, you need some space, or you need affection, or one of your love languages isn't being taken care of, if you can't communicate that, you can't articulate that, and guys need to be doing a better job at that, that's a problem. Having your own friends is another. So how many guys do you know that go MIA the minute they enter a relationship? We all know.
There's always a few in the group. Yeah. Always a few.
It bothers the hell out of me. Because I did that. I was that guy.
I've done it too once. Yeah.
And I hated myself for it. And I lost, and I lost time with a lot of great relationships I had and friendships. And luckily, they were deep enough to rekindle, but it's just a shitty thing to do, I think. And if you're going to change for someone, I don't think they're the right person, but it's not me to, because I've had this conversation with a few friends, and people tell me, look, because I'm black or white. I'm like, look, either I'm in your life or I'm out of your life. There's no, you go and MIA, deal with this relationship, and then come back, and then when you need a buddy, I'm here for you, right? But people are like, come on, man, what if he needs you? He's going to need you even more then, right? And, some people just got to go through their own thing and deal with it. I don't know what's going on there, but it's like, you can't be that ruthless, I think, sometimes.
No, obviously the time can be spent less, but it's still when they check in, how's it going? It's sometimes this guy don't know you anymore. Yeah. It's I haven't talked to you in weeks. How you been? We talk a lot more, and now the conversation dies a lot quicker, and then all of a sudden they break up, and it's oh, now they're coming out again, and it's man, it's cool. Obviously you come out because we want to see you, right? But it's still, you can't always change.
But so how do you forgive? How deep does it have to be to forgive? Let's say I went MIA and for a year or 2 years or 5 years, and then I called you up and said, I'm single again, and do you?
If you call me up only when you're single, type of thing, I think that's indicative of how shallow the relationship is. It was never strong to begin with.
But you can still have some good shallow-ish relationships too.
Well, you need them.
Yeah, right. There's some people you just want to meet up and have some drinks with.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. I think people shouldn't change. I think especially as we get older, it's I know who I am, or I'm starting to figure out who I am, and I'm the principles and ethics and is really what bind me. I'm okay. So I promise myself, I'm if there's a girl that comes into my life that takes me away from friends or tries to change me, then she's not the right girl, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll refuse to do it. I just refuse to let myself go down there, because it doesn't align with my beliefs, right? It just makes me feel just not good, right? It's a shitty feeling, right? So it's a tough one, though. It happens a lot.
So how much of that is on the partner? Should they not have some level of awareness to say, hey, you should be hanging out with your friends, you should have your own friends, you should continue to have your own hobbies?
Depends on the relationship, though, right? Because some people, it's opposite. The girl doesn't want him, only wants them, to hang out with them, right? So if it's only hanging out with that one person, it's only want you to hang out with me, then it's different. Then some girls will be oh, hang out with whoever you want to hang out with. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think there are some great couples that just don't change, and they come out and I want a girl that I could bring out with my friends, right? And share in those moments and just be chill about it. Come, don't come. It's you know what I mean? People get so caught up in oh, because we're dating, we stay in now, or because start labeling themselves, or you know what I mean? I just life is about just
well, it should be the same as, I think it's more as when you're dating. It's when you first start dating, you're going to go out a lot. Then now it's okay, then why do you have to stop going out just because we become more, I guess, closer? It's no, we still want to go. I feel that's what keeps it up. And because sometimes you just hang out and you're always hanging out, you're always chilling at home, and you don't go out as much either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I am sort of a homebody too. So when I'm in a relationship, I don't mind. I'm like, okay, let's just cuddle and watch a movie kind of thing. But I also learned that, that gets, you get too comfortable there and then you stop going out. Like I want to be able to like go on dates with my girlfriend or, you know what I mean? Like pretend like we're just started dating, keep it fresh, keep it exciting and, create some like excitement. Right. So there's just gotta be balance. Yeah. And it's I've got to have cuddle dates, which are like amazing. You have to have cuddle dates. But you also have to.
I love cuddling.
Cuddling, small spoon, all day.
Are you really?
All day. All day.
I've tried the small spoon. It's just my girlfriend's. She can't really just wrap around me.
I know that's the point. It's just like
it does feel so nice, like a blanket.
I love a good small spoon.
Just get a weighted blanket then.
It's not the same. Small spoon. I just love the touch of a woman. I don't know.
Sometimes I just need to be held. Like just hold me. Like I like small spoon.
Yeah.
No, cuddling is awesome. A nice date where you're just at home watching a movie. Yeah. Order some food and just cuddle up on the couch type of thing. I think that's like the perfect date for me. Yeah. It's so relaxed. You don't have to worry about, is the food going to be good? Is the service good? You got to drive. You got to find parking. And I mean, if you Ubered or whatnot, I guess that's different. But having that sort of relaxed environment, especially for me, is such an important thing now. If I can't be relaxed, I don't want to be there because I'm not interested anymore in having those tense, like I'm trying to impress type of thing.
Yeah, like high energy, high thought. You're always thinking about your next move. What should I say? What should I not say? Why did I say that?
Yeah, it's got to flow just organically. You just kind of just.
Well, isn't that how you know when you've met someone that you like genuinely? Like it just all flows organically. You're not thinking. You're just being on the spot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
Awesome.
Would you like me to expand?
No, hey, no, that's cool. How important is it that a lot of issues in relationships these days come from the fact that you're bringing your old baggage into that relationship. You have not dealt with your old baggage. And that, firstly, to me, is a sign of immaturity, mentally and emotionally, because you haven't dealt with your stuff. Deal with your shit, figure it out. Don't bring it in and expect somebody else to fix it for you. And then don't bring it in and then expect that when you're having a crappy day because of some old baggage, that your partner has to all of a sudden accept and deal with that and accept you as you are because you haven't done the work to move forward, to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like for me, every relationship, I've been in two basically long-term, but I don't think the first one, I was too young. Like I just realized I'm emotionally too young, emotionally immature. I wasn't even ready. I had no business being in a relationship. Truthfully, I had no business being in either one. But the second one was recent. I was 27 at the time. It was a 5-year relationship. And I learned a lot about myself. And that was like, to me, a huge growth in those 5 years from a relationship standpoint. So I think if you're paying attention and you're learning, I think I could be a way better boyfriend now because of that relationship, right? And it's too bad. I mean, if I don't know where she stands, but she's I don't know if she's a happy camper, but it's just like now I know so many more things that I want to do differently,
like what?
As a boyfriend. Just like again, not getting too comfortable. Actually, really thinking and like planning things out and like kind of not getting complacent, right? Like, cause I'm not a planner. I'm not a scheduler. She was always planning the trips and all that. I just said, tell me what you need and where I have to be and how much we got to pay. And that's it. Right. For me, I would just, cause like love is a verb. It's not a feeling to me. It's like, it takes work. It takes actual commitment. It takes like, constantly
100%.
Thinking about it and proactive behavior. It's not just going to stay. Like the feeling is not going to stay from date one.
No, that was my biggest mistake. Was I just assumed that love would fix everything. Just if there was ever an issue in a relationship, it was like, but I love you. Yeah. Shouldn't that resolve the problem? Like, aren't we done? We moved past it. And I think learning to grow past that and understanding that love only gets you so far. And someone told me a quote recently where they said, love will only get you to the altar. What happens after the fact is work, commitment.
Mm-hmm. And just, being more adventurous and like living, you know what I mean? That's where I was kind of not, I didn't know myself well enough, right? At 27, I feel like for me anyways, I think in general guys take a little longer to sort of emotionally develop, right? And I just didn't know myself well enough to bring a partner in, right? Even now, I'm 37 now, and I'm like still figuring a few things out where I don't feel ready to bring someone in just yet, right? But like we were talking earlier, it's like I'm not planning for it, but that's when usually something could potentially happen, right?
When it happens, it happens.
And in terms of like the baggage, right? I think that, I know, like we all have our own baggage that we come from, like, you know, and it's hard to, obviously you're always gonna have baggage, but I think the communication part is the hardest part of it. It's like when you gotta be able to know which stuff you've gotten over or not gotten over, and like if you're still working on it, you gotta be open. Okay, like I'm still working on these things. Like I'm trying. Like as long as you're actively trying, or like you or your partner's actively trying and working on that baggage, then you're gonna have to like work with them, right? Opposed to if they're just like, this is my baggage, this is how it is. It's like I don't have to be a punching bag just because you feel like you want to. That's just you. Like, you know, as long as like if you know that when you get a certain way when you're angry, it's like let's work on it together. Like how are we going to do the same thing if something bothers me? Work on it together.
Are you dating someone, Matthew?
Am I dating somebody?
Are you single? I don't even know that.
It's a loaded question. He's the dramatic pause we talked about earlier.
You did repeat the question when I said it.
Yeah, it's buying time. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I'm a single guy.
You're single?
Yeah.
Okay. Intentionally? You're just taking time for yourself?
Yeah.
I think a lot more guys need to do that.
It's intentionally.
I was a serial relationship or dater or whatever you call it. Like I always had to be in a relationship. I defined myself by the relationship I was in. Mm-hmm. And after I split with my ex, that time alone did wonders for me. Mm-hmm. Just to be able to actually figure out who I was. And I almost had an identity crisis after that because everything about me was tied to who I was in my relationship with my ex. And when that ended, all of a sudden I had to figure out, okay, who am I? Who is Samir? What does he like doing? What are my goals? What are my ambitions? Where do I want to be in life? Am I happy with where I'm at? And, it was the first time I even lived alone. And I learned, at first it was scary. I was like, holy shit,
Wasn't it during the pandemic too?
Yeah, right at the very beginning of the pandemic. So my ex and I split March 2020. And then early March 2020, like right at the beginning. And then the pandemic essentially locked everything down. And so that's why whenever I talk about like men lost all their distractions, in a way I'm thankful that things got locked down because I don't know where I would have been if I had access to clubs and bars and all these things. And like I probably would not have been able to, I would not have done the forced mental and emotional maturity that I did. And then who knows where I would have been today. I probably would not be here doing this, that's for sure.
But that must have been hard, just, being alone and then being locked down and then just all of these things hitting you at once.
Yeah. It it was probably the most vulnerable point in my life, for sure. I was scared. I felt alone. I didn't know.
Have a network of guys to turn to?
At the time, at the very beginning, no. Because I realized that the guys that were in my life, who I thought I could turn to, were enablers. So instead of helping me to become a better man, they encouraged the very behavior that got me into trouble in the first place. Not to say that they're responsible for my actions, what I say, don't say, what I do, what I don't do. Every man is responsible for their own actions, for their own words. But having a solid group of men around you who can say, hey, Matthew, listen, I care about you, and I know you're hurting, but what you're doing right now is not helping you. It's actually going to put you in a deeper hole, and you need to get out of that hole. So I'm here for you. You want to talk? You want to swear? You want to cuss? You want to fight it out? You want to do anything just to get it out of you? I'm here. And it's funny because I remember I was talking to like every person that sat in front of me. I needed to get it out of me. And I was just like, telling everybody my life story because I needed something. It was therapeutic for me, but every time I said it to some people, the response was, "Oh, I'm really sorry. That sucks. I hope it gets better." And I walk away and I'm like, well, that was a waste.
You also, like, you have to make sure that people are aware as well. Like, when you're want to load something, people got to be ready to listen.
What about female friends? Like, do you have close female friends?
Yes.
Where it's like platonic, it's never been romantic. It's
one of my when the split had happened, the first person I turned to was somebody I worked with. I had worked on the same floor as her, and I had known her for about 6 months, but we had this sort of like very friendly relationship, and one day I messaged her on our like internal chat, and I said, "Can we talk?" She's like, "Okay, I'm in the middle of teaching something, but meet me in like 20 minutes." So we go in and we just sit down in like the main hall, and I'm just like, "Here's the situation. I don't know what to do, and I don't know who I can turn to." And it's funny, she calls herself now my consigliere, because she basically was a sounding board for a lot of things. And then she would, she'd give me advice, she'd offer insight and, based on her experience. And it was therapeutic in its own way, but I still needed to have male influence. And there was this one guy who, and I think I mentioned him in our last episode. His name is Daniel. So shout out to Daniel Deering. He had every reason, because of how connected he was to the entire situation, he had every reason to basically just say, like, Samir, I've heard some things and I'm just, it could end there. Instead, he basically took the opportunity to tell me, "Listen, I'm not judging you because we all make mistakes. And if you're judged by a handful of mistakes, it's like the equivalent of a hockey player or an athlete, rather, who has an amazing career for 10 years, but in one of those years, he basically shits the bed. Do you remember him based on that 1 year or the entire span of his career?" Right? So he said to me, he's like, "Listen, you made mistakes. Now it's about how you move forward and become a better man." And he sort of forced me to like deal with my shit. And then through just constant conversation, hours on the phone sometimes, I'd break down, I'd admit my fears, and he would just sort of like, "Here are my troubles. Let me share with you." And then we just sort of created this bond. And then through him, I met 2 other guys who, again, sort of on the same wavelength. And then a relationship I had with somebody I went to York, and we were good friends, and then life happens. Everyone gets busy. We rekindled that friendship, and now he's one of my closest male friends as well. And now I can say, like, I have that core group of men that if anything is ever happening, I can always turn to. I call, they pick up. I text, they respond. And that's why having male relationships is so important.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, a good listener, like, just see
100%.
Like in my experience, I sort of associate a good listener with my female friends. Like, females are such, like, my female friends are such good listeners. When I'm telling them, they're like so interested and they're focused. I'm like, wow. So having that is like just, that space to be able to just like flush it all out is really important. And if you find a male friend that is interested and can do it, then even better, right? Because even for me, I find myself, I really got to focus. I really got to like tell myself I got to be a good listener. And even goes back to what Russell Peters was saying, where sometimes you don't want to talk. Sometimes you just need somebody there, right? And sometimes that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I'm in my emotions right now. I'm in my feelings. I just need to process them and go through them. And some people be like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Just tell me. You can talk to me. You can tell me." I'm like, I don't really need to talk. I don't want to talk, right? Trust me, when I want to talk, I'll talk, right? But it's like, just be there, right? Like, that's all you need, kind of thing. And when I'm ready, I know that you're there, right? So
I thought that was really interesting, and it's kind of like, I think it's healthy to do both, right? To talk or not to talk. Like, you know, it's not that, because I don't bottle anything in. Like, I'm really good at letting everything out, right? I really believe in that. So, but when I don't want to talk, I really just don't want to talk.
Yeah, sometimes you just want somebody just there. Like, I just need you around me. Like, you know, I just need you just to be around me. We don't need to maybe just enjoy each other's silence sometimes, right? Opposed to, not that anything's wrong, and then sometimes, okay, now I want to talk. But it's like, it's also the same thing you're saying. You have to be able to, you know, establish a difference, right? I hate when there's an argument. It's like, are you upset? It's like, no, I'm just kind of chilling. Like, I'm not upset. I just don't really feel like talking right now. I'm just, you know, I'm in the zone. You know, I'm not upset, and it's like, are you hiding something? It's like, no. Like, sometimes I just want to just chill.
Yeah, like, we don't need to label it. We don't need to like process.
It's nothing. It's just right now we're just chilling on this, like, you know. But we'll talk. Like, we'll talk when it's time to talk. It's like, as long as you're not like, oh, I don't want to talk. Like, you know,
like, you can't be aggressive saying it.
No, you can't. Yeah. You can't. As long as but you also got to give people time. You can't just assume that when you're ready to listen, that someone's ready to talk to you as well. Mm-hmm. Right? You got to give them, okay. Like,
it's based on their time.
Yeah, it's okay. So whenever you're ready to talk, let's talk. Like, but as long as we talk.
But what about the guys that don't talk? And that's kind of, I think, where it's
well, that's not fair to the partner.
They bottle it up, and that turns into something.
So that's on, in my opinion, that's on the guy. That's on the person. Mm-hmm. Like, if they're choosing, so whether you're on the receiving end of that, if your partner doesn't want to talk and you're trying to figure things out, that leaves you in the dark. And if you're someone who doesn't talk and bottles everything up inside, again, that's your baggage. You got to fix that, because how are you going to communicate with your partner? If you're bottling it up and you need help, tell the person that's closest to you.
But how do you fix that? Like, what would you tell the guys out there that don't talk or just not comfortable talking, and they bottle it up, and then you end up sweeping it under the rug?
You have to tell somebody.
You do have to tell someone, or like, write it. Yeah. Write it down. Like, even
you got to tell. Maybe
you just got to get it out.
Tell yourself.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to tell somebody. Like, you can't just keep it in, and it's just because it built, like, it's so much. It's so much heavier when you keep it in.
Oh, 100%.
And I hate because I used to, like, even because I used to keep everything in. I obviously still keep things in from keeping everything in, but, like, even now when I keep other things in, I'm just like, because, like, I'm so used to, like, letting it all out, but, like, you know, it's like, I know I'm keeping it in, and it so bothers me.
But writing it down, that's good advice, because I started doing that recently, and just to get it out of your head, because your brain is doing a lot of things.
Just to get it out of my head. I'm okay, go on. Thoughts are gone.
I used to do this thing where, after everything had happened and I was basically by myself, I was alone. I was just trying to figure life out and everything. I had this tendency growing up where anytime I wanted to say something, I would verbal diarrhea into a conversation or a text. I would send these paragraphs after paragraphs after paragraphs, and I was essentially saying what my thoughts were unfiltered. And on the receiving end of that, people might not appreciate that, because sometimes unfiltered is raw. It could be offensive. It could be aggressive. It could be, like, it might not come across the right way. So I used to do this thing, and it worked wonders for me. So hopefully it works for somebody else. I would essentially write out, instead of just writing out my thoughts, I would write out the message as if I was going to send it to the person I wanted to send it to. And I would edit it. I would rewrite it to think, okay, like, this is now ready to be sent, but I would never send it. And in the rare occasions where the temptation was really real, I would send that text to the friend of mine. And I'd send that to him, and then I'd write right afterwards, I just needed to hit send on this. And his response was always, absolutely. So if you sometimes feel like you need to verbal diarrhea everything out, there's nothing wrong with that.
Do? Like, why did you need to hit the send?
Just to feel like I got it out of me completely. Like, I've just sent it. It's in the universe now. Somebody has received it. But again, it became this therapeutic thing.
And then to the person that you want to send, you sent to somebody else.
I would send it to someone else.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, yeah. Okay. So I would always send it to somebody else.
I thought you meant you just sent it to that person. I'm like, whoa, that's risky.
No, man. Well, exactly, because the idea was I didn't want to, like, I'm writing these things down because they're they're unsaid things. Yes, there's things that I haven't been able to say, and I didn't get the opportunity to say, or I didn't feel like what I wanted to say was going to get heard, right? Obviously, in relationships, when they end, there's a lot of heartache, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of anger, and walls are built. And so sometimes when you want to communicate things, no matter how good of a place it comes from, it just won't come through, right? And so I would, the idea of just writing it out, typing furiously in my phone, and then simply hitting send to someone was in and of itself sort of a like, because I got it out.
There's like levels. Writing it first is like level 1, and then sending is kind of like the next level.
Exactly. And all of that always prevented me from sending the messages to the person that the message was initially intended for. And sometimes they would be like, messages of, like, I miss you, right? Or sometimes it would just be like, this is where everything went wrong, and this is my perspective on it, and this is why you're wrong, and this is why I'm right. But again, all of those are very kind of like what's happening in our heads is very different than what should be coming out, right? Because it needs to be filtered. Because in here, it's all jumbled, right? You're saying everything that comes to your mind, unfiltered, raw, unedited. And sometimes when we do that in relationships, it causes more trouble than it does good.
Yeah.
And so when you apply that technique, I find personally, it always allowed me to get that out of my system. And then if I still really, really felt like I needed to send it to the person, maybe I would. But I never got to that point because anytime I hit send, it was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it surprised me how therapeutic that is. Even if it's like, if you have some sort of resentment or anger towards someone and you just write it all out, and then they say, put it in a drawer, just get it out. Don't send it to back in the day it was like a letter. So I say letter just because I'm a pen and paper guy. When I am sort of getting my thoughts out, it's usually pen and paper. But just getting it, because I'm a thinker, so my mind is racing, and there's certain times where it's just thinking about all these things, right? And if I don't get it out, like, people don't understand, the brain is doing a lot just to keep you alive, like just to keep your body functioning. And then you add all the thoughts on top of it, ideas and business and relationships, and and you're not getting that out. You're probably missing a lot of like gifts in there that you know what I mean? Because especially when you're in a place like, for me, for example, I'll take a walk. I like to walk and sort of be in nature, especially in the summer, right? And that's when my mind is really racing. And the shower is another great place. Your mind is racing. So if you can find ways to like capture thoughts, sometimes you just articulate it so well that one time, and you can never get it that way again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to write this as soon as I get out of the shower, and then I don't do it. And then I don't do it. I'm like, oh, this is important to me. I'm going to remember it. And then I'll lose it forever.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, right?
I definitely like the writing on the paper. I did that. I've done it a couple of times. I'd write it and then like I'd rip it up because I wouldn't, and throw it in the garbage. And then one time I was telling a buddy of mine, he's like, but like, I've always thought about burning it, right? And then he's like, so he had like a fire riddle, and then he burned it after, and like, it just feels so much better. Just like, it's the same thing. Like, it's just, it's gone, but like, you got it out, wrote it on paper, just burn it. It feels so much better.
Sounds
like
nicer too.
Yeah. Then even just, and it's the same thing. Even just ripping it up and tearing it up, throwing it in the garbage, burning it, just feels like I really felt like it was gone.
Yeah,
like,
and even when it comes to relationships, like sometimes writing a letter to your partner is sort of easier to, like, again, flesh it out, articulate, edit. Just like really get the messaging across that you sometimes don't. I know for me, anyways, when I'm in a conversation, I'm. Sometimes there are a lot of things I miss.
Need a second to step back.
I want to edit.
Let me write down my thoughts so like it comes out the way I really want it to say. I don't want to just come with you and it's like, say something I might regret, or like I didn't say it properly because it was in the moment, or it's just I just need to second it, just come out and just say it, just think it out. Right.
So on the receiving end, though, if let's say your partner wanted to, do you want your partner to basically tell you everything immediately? Do you want them?
No, I want them to tell them on their time.
Okay.
Like,
and so you're okay with waiting, like if you know there's a problem.
Yeah.
And they're upset. They're fuming, whatever the case may be, they're upset. Are you okay to sit there and wait, or do you simply go, like, are you okay? Can you talk? Can you tell me? Because if you don't tell me, because I'm guilty of that. Yeah, I sometimes just like, come on, tell me so I can figure out how to solve this.
Yeah, depends on the situation. Like if she's mad at something, it's like, can we talk about anything else and just don't talk about that? Or can we not have a conversation at all? Right. So it's like, now if we can't have, like, if you're just mad at something, okay, we just won't talk about that, and we'll talk about anything else. So okay, so then we'll just leave that topic for later. Right. When you're ever ready to talk about it. But if we can't talk about anything at all now like I'm getting one word responses, I'm like, okay, so you're mad at, that means it's a bunch of things. And so like, so now it's like, okay, then let's talk, because what else is there to do?
Yeah, I'm a immediate rip the Band-Aid, like, let's figure this out. Sometimes people need a little bit of space, and you got to give them that. Like, give me a minute with this, right?
I was like, I'd like to talk about this as quickly as possible, but on your time, like, you know, obviously, if it's, how long can you delay it though? If it means like within a few days, you still need to talk about it. Because if you're that mad still, because I know me, like, I'm usually not that mad after that long, so we can talk about it. But like, if you're still mad after 3-4 days, and then I should know, like, how are you that mad? Like, you know, we got to talk about what's going on, because that's
then
a
it's
long
on them
time.
holding it in.
So, so like, okay, now so it's not about that. That's your own. So let's talk about what's really going on, because whatever that is, like, I can't imagine that.
If you could pause it, like if you say, okay, we're still cool, but we're going to pause this because you're just not ready to talk. Has that ever worked? Have you ever tried that?
It's never worked for me. But I also, so the ripping off the Band-Aid thing, I'm the same way. I kind of like, all right, my problem solving brain turns on, and I'm like, how do we fix this? So I've found that if your partner, a friend even, if they're angry about something, right, and you're in their line of sight, whether you're the cause of it or whether you're just around it, I always ask, you know, do you want support or do you want a solution?
That's
because
key.
If they go, I want a solution, well, my problem solving brain is on. Here's a solution. If you want support, then
you're just listening.
I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they want support. You're quick to offer. I mean, a lot of men do
That's
this.
We want to
offer solutions right away.
Especially for women.
Do you want to just vent, or do you want to like talk about it?
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes women just want to vent. They're like, no, I don't want you solving this, bro. Just listen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just venting. And I can't comprehend that.
My brain can't comprehend that. Like you tell me, so I'm just like, you want me to do nothing with that information? Like, you just want me to just leave that? I was like.
Yeah, I've been guilty of even being like, "Hey,
it's so hard."
I know. I'm like,
it's so hard.
I'm like, I'm not the guy for that. You go to your girlfriends for that. Your other,
but like, no, it's like I want to listen, but like I want to try to help solve the problem.
Yeah, but that's why you ask the question, because then you know how to, at least you, as they're talking to you, you can make your notes of like when you can, like what a solution could look like, and then when they're ready, the person will come back to you and say, "Okay, you know,
that is a
good
question, Taz. That's good advice right there."
Because it's also understand.
Yeah, like okay, I'll listen. It's like, okay, but like sometimes like getting agitated, it's like, okay, remember, I'm listening.
But that also goes to understanding. I mean, depending on how deep your relationship is with this person, it goes to understanding their love languages, right? Because if there's someone that, like if you can understand how this person likes to receive information, how they like to give information, how they like to be, you know, whether it's a gift or words of affirmation or things like that, then if they say to you, hey, if let's say words of affirmation is your love language, you like hearing nice things, it uplifts you, and you're pissed off one day, and I go, Matthew, do you want support or a solution? And you go, I want support. Then I know that support is very much like words of affirmation. You know what, man, don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. You're smart. You know what you're doing. And sometimes that triggers you, and then that moves you towards, all right, now how do we find the solution? So I think really understanding the love languages of the person you're talking to also helps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've also learned, like, you know, I've trained myself that when there is a problem, like let's say in business, for example, we're talking business relationships now, right?
Those are always fun.
When I you know, this is a hard thing to do. It's, you know, when it gets uncomfortable, when a client's pissed off or something, as soon as you know there's a problem, pick up the phone and solve it, right? Any time added to that problem is just going to amplify the problem. It's going to create worse. And I used to be that procrastinator, like, and you don't want to have that uncomfortable chat, right? You just don't want to do it, right? These uncomfortable conversations, or you have to let somebody go or whatever it may be. But I'm learning to trigger myself in business setting anyways. When I see a problem, when I have to have an uncomfortable conversation, that's an indicator that I need to take action immediately, right? Otherwise, it always gets worse, and it's just always proven to be right in my experience, where it's just it always, and you feel so good after, like you feel like, okay, that's done and over. Now it's not on your brain, because remember, it's going to be taking up brain power as long as that problem exists, right? So the faster you can sort of just deal with it, when you have control over it, I think it's just the faster you release it, right?
But that doesn't always work in personal relationships.
In relationships, it's tough because you're dealing with human emotion. You're dealing with, you know, another person, sort of, you know, it's just, it's different. It's tough. And you have less control, I find. Where business, it's like you want to move forward. We're here for a transaction. We're here to, like, you know, work together towards a goal, right? With the relationship, it's a little bit more widespread, I would say, you know?
Okay. I want to change gears a little bit. Some quick fire questions. So just get ready to answer just yes or no. Do you split the bill?
Never. Well,
hold on. You answered. Hold on, Matthew.
I'll split not on like a first few dates, no, but like if we're dating for a long time, I'll split the bill. Man, she wants to split the bill.
Would you ever ask?
No.
So you don't ask to?
No.
Okay. What if it's like a sizable bill? We're not talking dinner now. We're talking.
I go to grab the bill. If she says let's split it, we can split it. If she doesn't, if she doesn't say it, but like I think, but like this is for me. It goes from the first date though. Like if I'm on a first date with a girl, and the bill comes, and she doesn't even do one of these.
Oh no, you got to do
not
the
even the face.
No, you got to do the reach.
She can wear a dress with no pockets. She doesn't do one of these.
She's got to do the reach. The reach has to happen.
Yes, and then I'm cool. I got it. Like
or like, are you sure we can split it? Just something.
Like something. But like,
even if there's no intention behind it.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's first date. Of course, like I'm paying the bill. We both know this, but like it's just that I've been on a date and it's the bill comes. She's telling the story. The bill comes, flops it down and just keeps talking. Doesn't break stride. Nothing. And I'm like, I'll pay the bill. I'm like, no, it's not. That's it.
The first and last.
No, man. No.
So is that a deal breaker?
Yes.
Is that a red flag?
Yes.
It does say a lot. Like for me, I believe, okay, first date, never, ever, ever. I'm like, even I tell my girlfriends, I'm like, if he's even alluding to that, first of all, he's a write-off. You take the bill from him, pat him on the head and say, I'll just take care of this, thanks. If it's a first date, right? That's old-fashioned sort of. Then it's like, I don't believe in splitting. I'll pay for the first few, and then you cover the next one. It's either I cover it or you cover it. We're not doing this splitting thing. We're not like buddy. Yeah, like I think it kills the romance.
Do you ever feel uncomfortable when the girl goes to pay? Like the waiter comes, they drop the bill off, she takes it, she busts out her card. Do you ever feel uncomfortable as a guy?
Again, it depends. If it's a first date and like, I just want
not
the
first date.
Okay,
let's just say it's like date number 5, or you're in a full-fledged relationship at this point.
No, I feel like this is her taking care, like doing something for me, right? Like she's like pretend like you care about me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's like an endearing thing of like,
endearing is a good word. I like that. Yeah.
So I look at it like that. Like, I've taken care of you, and she's like conscious of money. Like money's not just growing on trees here. Like, you know what I mean? This guy's not just going to pay for my whole lifestyle here. I get that money has value here. You know what I mean? Like,
because we see a lot of that kind of relationship where their lifestyle's being funded.
Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a guy with money, right? Like that's, to me, it's like it's one thing. It's not everything. It's one thing. Like you want a guy successful. You want a guy that has money. You want a guy that's,
Well, if that's the primary though, that's a very shallow relationship.
If that's primary, of course.
That's not even a relationship. That's a transaction. Mm-hmm. That's you providing me with a service, and in exchange, I'm providing you other services, and then that's it. It's very based on the money. And I think relationships like that are always doomed to fail, or they're superficial. And what's unfortunate is there's a lot of guys out there that have done well for themselves who find these people who are just after their money.
Yeah, it's a lot harder, definitely, when you...
Which also makes it harder for, sorry not to cut you off, it makes it harder for guys who are genuinely trying to build something for themselves, trying to get into a relationship, but just simply can't keep up with the girls who want to eat the lavish, $200 dinners where like it's like three things of pasta.
Little things like that, that's how you know. That's what I think. Something like that on the first date is like huge.
An indicator.
Right? It's a little like it's something like, because for me it's always the small things, right? Like we both know I'm paying for this date. Like I asked you, we both know this. Like so you reaching it just means so much more.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it shows like okay, like or like come in and I've been already go like go to the washroom, they pay it, like they pay it. I'm like I was gonna pay it, but like all right, cool, because it just shows that you just want to, and it's the effort. That's all it is, the effort. Like, and then you have to have that same way both ways. So
yeah, I think it says a lot about a person, right? And especially in this day and age. And I can flip it. I know some really successful women that take care of their man, and they're the breadwinner, and they make the money, right? But it's just like, again, it's like it tells me a lot about like, is she a good person? Is she got a warm heart? You know what I mean? The reach. That's like, to me, it just gives me all these sort of indicators. And like you said, maybe not a red flag, but you're going to be more cautious at that point, right? Of like, is this what kind of girl is this?
This reminds me. So I had this first date once where I was, I think, either 17 or 18, and I just started, just finished school, started working, part-time, starting to like, get a job going and that kind of thing. I was working retail, I was working at Tommy Hilfiger. Like, it was nothing to write home about. But I should probably cut that part out if I want to get sponsored by Tommy Hilfiger. So anyway, we go out on a date, and I'm like, I really like this girl, so I'm gonna dazzle her. So I get a reservation at is it Jump or is it Canoe that's on like the 34th floor? Canoe. So I booked this restaurant, a reservation rather, and I already knew that this was going to be like some fine dining type of thing. It was going to cost me an arm and a leg, but I'm like, I've been saving. Like at this point, I've been saving for a couple of weeks to part-time salary to pay for all of this. So I go and I meet her, and I thought that we were just going to like hop on the subway, which was like 2 stops from where she was living at the time to get to Canoe. But instead she wanted to take a cab. And I didn't plan for that, right? So I was like, okay, paid for the cab. We get to the restaurant. We order food. We order drinks. We eat. Everything. The bill comes. I take the bill, and I look at it, and I'm like, okay, I have enough for the total. I have enough for about 80% of the tip. I wanted to add like 15%, and I didn't want to skimp out on the waiter, right? So I turned to her, and I'm just like, hey, do you have, like, I'm literally short a couple of dollars just so I can hit that 15% mark. Nothing crazy. I'm not asking you to put in $20. I'm asking you for like a couple of dollars. And I don't know, maybe I was naive, but I wasn't even embarrassed or shy about asking, because I'm just like, hey, like I was explaining myself. I'm like, the waiter worked so hard. I just want to, make sure I give him 15%. And she looked at me, and as the waiter was coming, I guess he had heard everything, and she's like, are you serious? And I swear to you, I felt this big. And the waiter just like, I looked at the waiter because I was starting to turn flush, and he's just like,
that's a rough one.
Yeah.
How old were you? You were young.
I was like 17, 18.
Yeah. When you're young, it's fine.
Okay, so ghosting. Have you ever ghosted anybody?
I don't believe in it, man. I'm, again, a communicator, black or white. Just rip
so
the
you've
Band-Aid.
Never ghosted anybody? You've never gone out on a date with someone or sort of started a quasi
Not unless it was a mutually understanding where we both did not have a good date. She knew
so like
there was going to be no
faded.
conversation after this. Yeah, but it wasn't like she's messaging me and I'm just gone. Like I'll always like just again end it, rip the Band-Aid.
Ghosted anyone?
Oh man.
Have you ever been ghosted?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, me too. It sucks.
I hate being
how
ghosted.
painful.
I think like
is
I
it?
like
because you don't know.
There's a difference between like ghosting and like if a conversation just dies out, then it's just like now you're just like, hey, how you doing? Like 2 weeks later, just hey, and then you just don't respond to it. Hey, I don't think that's really ghosting.
No, it's ghosting is when you're like
ghosting is when you guys are having regular conversation and all of a sudden it's just done.
Right.
Yeah. Like it was a second date. Sushi. Went out for sushi. Had a great sushi dinner. Doctor too. She offered to pay for that too, even. So I was like, okay, like money's not an issue for her, nothing like that. Had a great time, I thought. And I don't know, I kind of like there was one thing I didn't feel good about at the end of the night, but I was like, whatever. I mean, we had such a great date and all that. Nothing, man. Hey, what's up?
Nothing.
I tried a few different ways, like Instagram, WhatsApp. No, nothing. Call, text. Okay.
Okay. What's an attractive personality trait? One. Your top one.
My top one.
Do you have one? Kindness for me.
Okay.
Like not just kindness to me, but kindness in general. Kindness to like the server at the restaurant. Kindness to the person in the elevator. Just genuine kindness. They don't have to be the most social butterfly, but they just have to be a kind person.
I think I'd have to say sense of humor then.
Okay.
Just to
That's
get along.
the top one.
Like to get along with me, you gotta have a sense of humor. Right?
It's like a conversationalist, someone I can just like talk to.
Okay.
Like conversationalist.
Okay. Should you have the same friends?
As in,
like you and your partner
groups?
Yeah, like all your friends, circle are all the same people. You should have
some of the same friends, definitely, but you also need to have friends that aren't
separate.
Friends.
Yeah, I think she needs her friends. I need my friends, and they can be guys, girls, all that. I think it's unhealthy when.
You have to have same friends and you have to have separate friends for sure.
And again, the mixtures I think is important because some guys will not let their girl have guy friends and vice versa, right?
and that goes into another
That's
whole topic,
a whole other
right?
thing. Yeah. How much of that though is an insecurity on the part of the guy?
It's definitely an insecurity on the guy's part, or like the partner's part, that is, quote unquote jealous of that situation, right? Or not comfortable with that situation. You have to and that's what goes back to like finding the right partner. Of like, if you got your down ass girl, and your ride or die, and you guys are loyal, trusting each other, like, shouldn't matter what they go and do, right?
And if you can't trust her to be around other people, then that's just like,
that's a different
there's a bigger issue
anyway.
Yeah, there's
anyway.
Exactly.
I get like, it's gotta be like, yeah, just fuck, man. Yeah, if you can't trust her, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing, the trust.
Okay. So to bring it all the way back to the very beginning of this conversation, is all fair in love and war?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
No.
yeah, I'm going no. No, because sometimes people do like
not the shady stuff, not the negative stuff.
But that's the point.
No, negative. It can't be negative.
All fair.
Shady is
what
all.
does that mean? Is all fair?
Anything goes.
Whatever
it
in war, you're not killing civilians and women and children. That's not fair.
That's a very different conversation.
But in the equivalent of love,
is all fair?
What does killing children look like?
Okay, is all fair in love? There is all fair in love.
Is all fair in love?
Yes or no?
I'm gonna go yes, but then there's caveats that we'll
You
get
can't.
into
It's
later.
either yes or no. Come on, you gotta commit.
Then it's a no. I don't know. It's a tough question. It's a no.
It's a no for me.
It's a no.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the posts, comment, engage with it, share it, please. Send it to your friends. If you think that there's any value in this for you or for someone that it helps us a long way in spreading sort of what we're trying to do here, which is just get the message out to men to become better men. Topics, yes. If you have topic ideas or guests that you want to recommend.
Any more topics is always good.
Yeah.
Just if you like it, you don't like it, engage. Let us know. Give us some feedback.
Let us know what doesn't work. If there's something that you don't like, please tell us as well so that we can improve on that. We're still new. We're still an infant, and we're figuring this out as we go, and we want to welcome you onto our journey and sort of come with us as we figure what it means to be a man in today's world.
Yeah, and we appreciate anyone who listens. Obviously,
100%.
That means a lot to us. So,
All right, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.